Coming up on the Branding Deep Dive podcast.
The governor told us in March of 2020 here, and March and April were very rough. They told us, you can't teach. You just can't. So what we did, we would drive, we would open up the academy. It would be me, my videographer, and whoever else I wanted in the video, depending on the subject matter we're covering. And we did that as opposed to teaching physical classes because I couldn't. I just made that my 9 to 5. And we did that, and we would record for hours and hours at a time, and it worked out great, man. It worked out great, and we took advantage of the time. Then I'd either stick around and chime in and online and teach some virtual classes while I'm there at the academy, and that would be my day. So it was still busy. I never took a break.
This is Ahmed Cheema, and welcome to the Branding Deep Dive podcast. If you're new here, this is a podcast where we have in-depth discussions about what brands are doing well to drive customer loyalty and how you can take those principles and apply them to your own brand. Today, we're talking to Sifu Harun Raja. Sifu Raja is the owner and instructor of Raja Martial Arts in Greenville, South Carolina. Sifu Raja is trained in Muay Thai, Wing Chun, FMA, JKD. I could keep going, but that would make this intro very, very long. Sifu Raja has been in the business of teaching people martial arts for over 12 years, and he has seen the ups and downs. In this episode, we dive deep into his story, pivoting during COVID when gyms were shut down, attracting and retaining talented instructors, and much, much more. If you're a teacher, a coach, or providing any type of service to individuals, this episode is a must listen. Now, here's Sifu Harun Raja. All right, welcome to the show. Today we have on Harun Raja. Harun, for the people that may not be familiar with who you are and the work you do, can you give them a brief introduction to yourself and Raja Martial Arts?
Absolutely. I run a martial arts studio for the past 12 years in the greater upstate South Carolina area. Through that, I've had the opportunity to also teach self-defense workshops in religious organizations such as churches and masjids. And then I've also had the opportunity to travel the nation and travel the world and teach martial arts specific seminars. When I'm not doing that, I'm an avid runner, athlete, ultra marathon runner, and a dad. So, okay.
Mm-hmm. You got your hands tied in a lot of things. Pretty busy, huh?
Yeah, I do. Yep.
One of the things that I think we should start with is how you got into martial arts. I know this is something that is definitely like, I mean, are you Desi, right?
Yeah, my father was from Pakistan, and then my mother as well. However, my mother was British, so she was born in London, and she was also from that region as well too.
Yeah, I just want to say, like from like our background, like I'm also from Pakistan.
Awesome.
My parents are from Pakistan, I should say.
Awesome.
And it's not something that, we're not exposed to martial arts as much, at least from my background. So how did you get into this?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So my mother, may her soul rest in peace. She passed away when I was 12. She was an avid Bruce Lee fan. So when she had a son, I had no choice. And after that, around 5 years old, we were blessed enough to find not only a martial arts school around here that had an attachment to Bruce Lee, but that it wasn't what usually most kids get into, such as karate or taekwondo. And we're talking late 80s, early 90s. So it was Wing Chun. And just a little background on that. That was Bruce Lee's instructor's martial art. If you're a big martial art fan, you're seeing these Ip Man movies come out. That movie is about Bruce Lee's Sifu, which means instructor in Chinese, and is like my second name. A lot of my instructors call me that. A lot of my students call me that. So she got me involved in that, and it was always martial art first, homework second, and it was like that miserably till I was about 10 years old. And 10 years old, I had a little bit of a growth spurt, and I started to like it. And then, of course, her untimely death when I was 12, along with all the other emotions that go through any child growing up in that fragile pre-teenage, propelled me to continue the martial arts and her legacy. And I was finally around 13, 14, 15, I had yeah, some emotions attached to the loss of my mother. So one of my instructors suggested I take up kickboxing, specifically Muay Thai, and I competed in that when I was 15 and up until almost about 20. Nothing big, just amateur. And yeah, so that's how I got started in the martial arts. And then that happened, and I kept taking on more martial arts and training more. It would open doors to other avenues and other arts that focus on different areas of combat, until I got certified in teaching a lot of these arts. And my first school was my garage, my father's garage, and he got pissed off that too many cars were parked outside his house. HOA got onto him about that, so that led to him being my first landowner and him kind of just making a bet with me, saying, "Hey, my father was always in businesses, the typical gas station businesses and whatnot that we're stereotyped and attribute to sometimes. And I definitely didn't want that. That wasn't what I wanted to do, but I learned, being an employee under him in that kind of line of work, a lot of business savvy stuff that I feel you can't learn in a textbook, a lot of street smart stuff, how to talk to people, how to be a people person. I was a huge introvert, and believe it or not, even now, I'm still that way. It's just if not for my career, that I force myself to be a public speaker, but usually I'm not like that. And I knew that for my work, you can't be like that. You have to be able to be a people person. And the Obama era, 2008 or 9, I graduated USC upstate. So University of South Carolina upstate, and couldn't find a job. There was a recession. Graduated with a criminal justice degree with a minor in religion. So totally nothing business related. My goal was just to join DSS or our local special forces police team, police academy, and they were laying people off. And then they had a furlough, so whoever they were laying off, they were just going to hire them back. So there was no hope in me. And then, kind of the long story short, with the war on terror still going on at that time, federal was the only one that wanted me. And me being brown, me knowing Urdu, you can only think of one job they wanted me to do. And I didn't feel comfortable being a kind of a mole or a spy or whatever they wanted me to do. So I got turned off to the whole criminal justice system and just all that. And then so my father said, if you're not going to use your degree, which by the way, he dropped so much money on, I got a property, and it's a 900 square foot little strip between 4 different sublet strip malls, properties. And I'll be your landlord, you be my tenant, and let's see if you can make this thing work. And 2009 August is when I opened my doors, and I never looked back. And alhamdulillah, it's been 12 years now. Next year will be 13. And it's paid for a pretty decent lifestyle, being able to take care of my wife and kids. I can't complain.
There is a lot you just dropped there. There's so many things.
So sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. That was awesome, right? And so there's so many things that I want to dive into right here.
It's the coffee. It's not me. It's the coffee.
I'm just trying to figure out where to start. You brought up Ip Man, and I think one of the things that I did have on my agenda to cover was that, like, Ip Man, Kung Fu Panda. There's a lot of movies. I mean, of course, Bruce Lee, right, in his era. Do these media productions that come out, do they actually raise awareness and bring more traffic to your sites, or is it not really any impact there?
It's huge. It's huge. So even just going beyond that, I'll just give you an example of something that has a minor play, but still brings traffic to our academy. So Denzel Washington did a movie called Book of Eli. Mm-hmm. And in that book, he had a blade. In particular, the way he was swinging that blade comes from a Filipino martial art called Kali. We actually teach that martial art, and the stunt choreographers who were teaching him that, along with the same stunt choreographers for Keanu Reeves and John Wick, along with the same stunt choreographers for Jason Bourne and the Bourne Identity movies, all were doing this martial art. And so I literally, and this student, if he listens to this podcast, he's going to know exactly who I'm talking about. I had a guy who came and said, I want to be like John Wick. Literally, he wanted to be like John Wick. And I said, okay, you mean you want to learn the arts that he does? because I can't promise I can get you to Hollywood all the way in South Carolina. And no, he really and fast forward, he's doing all the martial arts that some of them that were displaying those movies. So it does definitely, when marketed properly, and I think when shown properly too, because sometimes you have the flip side of it, and the flip side would be this is a big problem that a lot of us have, where they see maybe and Khabib does a really good job of cleaning that MMA world up, but sometimes you'll see where it's cool to get, I don't know, all cocky and bashful and get a fight in the ring, and then just totally miss everything that martial arts principles, morals, ethics, values talk about, and just go and be very selfless and individualistic. So what happens then in turn is I get people who call me literally wanting to fight. They don't want to learn any martial art. They already have an agenda as to what they want to do. And they feel that since I'm a public servant to society, I'm supposed to entertain that. And I don't. So you have a balance of a little bit both. Here you have the UFC, a fight almost every night. And, Johnny Nobody at the bar still drinking a beer thinking that he can fight. He gives me a call, you know what I mean? And he says, oh yeah, I just saw this and I want to do that. and then of course you have people who watch these movies, watch Ip Man, know who Bruce Lee is. And I tell you, there's something to say about Bruce Lee's legacy in 2021 when he passed away in 1973. And yet people still know who he is. So the Jeet Kune Do, his martial art, another art that we do, it's still promoted because people know who Bruce Lee is. Even guys like younger than, I don't know how old you are, but guys in the 20-year-olds, 19-year-olds, they know who Bruce Lee is. You know what I mean? And this is great. So yeah, I think it definitely does play a pathway to get students in the academy, and when done right, when promoted right.
So you said you don't entertain when someone is coming off, like they just want to beat someone up, right? Like, what does that conversation look like? Do you just tell them, hey, no, we don't do that here? Or like, how do you handle those customers or those potential clients that, they're bringing money to your door, right? They want to learn something,
right.
But that's not what you want to teach, right? That doesn't align with your principles and values. Like, how do you handle that?
There's an easy way and a hard way. Okay. The easy way, usually I can die a lot of that ego down over the phone and just tell them that, hey, we're not, and this is true about us in particular, not many other schools. But with us, we're not a big competition school. There was a time where I competed. There was a time where I focused on that. In my humble opinion, martial arts schools that focus just on fighters tend to not be very successful. You have to be able to provide a service for any human being that comes through that door. And you have to face the simple fact that they're not going to be collegiate athletes. They're not going to be, just physically fit. A lot of them are broken. A lot of them are coming into you. A lot of them are kids. They're women. They're coming from very, very psychological, mentally, physically abusive households. They're men with low self-esteem. There's the teenagers getting bullied at school. So you have to be able to cater the arts to everybody. So for that reason, I've never entertained that fight kind of like that taste in that mouth, but that's all they want to do. Now, the hard way is they come in, they sign the waiver, and as long as they sign the waiver, I'll put them with one of my top guys, and he'll put them in his place. So that's the hard way. And usually it's debatable which one works better, but so we're looking for quality over quantity all the time. We're definitely looking for quality over quantity. So we want to make sure, if you're a person, do you match the mold of the characteristics and the culture we created in our academy? And if you do, great. That means everyone else gets along with you. Women in the class are comfortable working with you because we have co-ed classes, and then we have separate women's classes for women who want to take a separate class. A lot of our Muslim, whoever, but we have co-ed classes as well. So I've got, it's a family fitness gym. I've got women, I've got children, so I've got to make sure it's a safe environment for them, and I have to put them first. So it's more of a kind of I'd like to get to know the person a little bit rather than take their money and say, yep, come on in.
I think what you just highlighted there, and I think what's really important for our listeners to kind of take away from that, is that you know, there may be a lot of like a spotlight around these fighter gyms, but the reality is that your customer base, in your case at least, is not going to be fighters, right? You're in Greenville, South Carolina.
Right.
These are people that are, you know, they're not necessarily trying to make their whole career as a fighter. And so if you cater your business model to that, you're not really going to get very far, as you mentioned. So it's important to understand
Right.
who your target audience is and how
Absolutely.
you can serve them.
That was an experiment. That was trial and error. I mean, yeah, when I was in my first 2 years, I was just coming out of amateur fighting. So the first year I went up to school, and some of those guys, I don't think they're with me anymore, but you know, if they listen to this, they know who they are. I did focus on fighters. I did not want someone who was, you know, they can't even make a fist, or you know, someone who can't even put their gloves on or the shit. I wanted just fighters, and I did, and I did that for a year, and I got burned out traveling every weekend to corner these guys in their fights. I got hurt and burned, not physically, but emotionally, because, you know, if they lost the fight, they felt that it was the coach's fault. You know, again, it goes back to the individualistic lifestyle and mentality. So I lost that student, you know, so it was through trial and error. And then, and, you know, I had cancer in 2016. I had testicular cancer. So that disease really, I would say, humbled me, because now essentially all those that I was looking down on, I became that type of person. I mean, I was like, okay, now I'm weak. Now I'm sick. Now I can't put food down or whatever. So that really changed my mindset as to what direction from here on out I wanted the academy to go towards.
Yeah, that's powerful. And I was listening to another podcast you were on, and I think it's a good transition to this topic. So you had cancer, and throughout that period, you were still running your business, right? Like,
Yeah.
how tough was that? And was that out of necessity, or was that just, you know, you just wanted to do it?
It was a little bit of both. My school at that time was probably on year, well, yeah, and actually we were in transition. So we were actually moving into where we currently are now, which is our largest space. It's 5,000 square feet. So we were in transition and moving. I wasn't newly wed, but our marriage was 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015. So it's like 5 year, 6 year mark. Finances weren't I mean, it was enough to take care of us, but it wasn't the best. So I felt the need that I needed to work. Second of all, my staff development really was birthed at that time, because, and I have those. So ironically enough, we have a Academy Awards lunch we had today. We haven't had one in 2 years, and we do it annually to recognize people who have helped us at our academy. And I tell you, those same people just now, 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time for lunch, were the same people that helped me out around that 2015, 2016 time that I was suffering from cancer. They stepped up, and they taught my academy, and they helped me stay at home. The other half of it was, I wasn't afraid of the disease. It claimed my mother's life when I was young, but you know, I've had physical pain from fighting and sports, worse pain than cancer. But if you tell me I can't do what I love, and if you tell me I can't teach, that killed me. That broke me as a human being. And my wife even remembers that as soon as the doctor said that, I was bawling up and crying. I'm like, he's like, no, your immune system's too low. You got to stay home. It's almost like, sounds like COVID times, you know, you can't go out. And that was it. That ruined me. So I, like, you know, I talked to another coach of mine who's a 2-time cancer survivor. And I told him, I was like, what did you do when this happened? And he said, I worked out, and I clocked into the gym, and I would hit the bag and hit the pad as hard as I could. And I'd go as far as physically as I could. And then when I can't, that's it. But at least I did something to get that energy out. And that's exactly what I did. So I had to come into the gym. You know, I had to smell the sweat. You know, I had to get that culture and that vibe in me. And I think that was my drug that I needed to keep pushing forward to defeat the disease.
Yeah, that's thank you for sharing that. I know that's probably not the best topic to discuss on a podcast.
No, that's right. I feel like I've been on repeat.
Oh, really?
That's been on every single podcast. Everyone brings that up because it's on a lot of my remission pictures and a lot of my well, I've talked about it in almost a lot of podcasts, and then some people are like, "Hey, there was a time you didn't have any facial hair." I was like, "No, that was chemotherapy. That was chemotherapy. That wasn't me shaving. That was chemotherapy." And I, before this mohawk here, I used to be bald. I used to shave my head bald, so that was okay. But the skinniness and then the bloating up of chemotherapy, plus me being clean shaved, that's when people really knew what was going on. Otherwise, I've always had a beard, so you'd find out anyway.
Yeah, this is totally off topic here, but have you seen King Richard by any chance?
I'm sorry, King Richard?
King Richard, yeah.
Is this a movie?
Yeah, this is a movie. It just came out. It's about Venus and Serena Williams and like their father's role in that whole process. And
oh no, I have not. That sounds very interesting.
Yeah. So the reason I bring this up, and I'm going to go back a little bit, but you also mentioned that you reached out to a mentor of yours. So that's kind of what sparked this. So I also saw that Tiger Woods documentary recently, and his father played a really big role in getting him into golf. Michael Jordan, we have the story of his relationship with his father. Mike Tyson. There's a lot of these examples, right? Like where the parents at a very early age got their children into something. For you, your mother, and I think for like it, not everyone may have like a parent that is invested in a certain sport or certain discipline and get their children into that. But what you learn, or at least from my perception, I'm not into martial arts, but from what I see in movies and stuff, is that mentorship and having a teacher is very important, right? And what you just mentioned is that when you were going through a difficult time, you had a mentor you could reach out to that had been through the same situation and was able to guide you through that. So I want to just kind of quickly get your thoughts on the role of mentorship and having people that are looking out for you and have your best interest at heart, and how that has shaped your, not just your martial arts career, but also your business career.
I mean, in the world that I'm in, it's knowledge passed from teacher to student. That's the culture that I'm in. That's the culture of martial arts. That's the culture of, if you replace it with coach, student, that's how, that's the culture of sports, so that was not something foreign to me, to be asking for help and to ask people that are greater than me. I mean, that's how some of the best martial artists become some of the best, is they seek out who are the top dogs, who are the ones that are producing the best fighters, or who's the one who has, the fastest, the strongest kick, punch, or who can grapple. They'll seek those people out, to learn from them. And so the same is applied to, things that go beyond martial arts, as far as the physicality part of it, the mental aspect, the spiritual aspect. So I've always had no problem having kind of a white belt mentality. White belt is the first rank of almost all art. So I always say that no matter how high I ever go, I'll always have that white belt mentality where I always feel hungry for more knowledge. I mean, it's in our religion too. I mean, you go out and you seek more people for more knowledge. Otherwise, you're never going to grow. If you're never going to grow, you're not going to ever be any good, and everyone's just going to pass you by. Business wise, yes, Mastermind is phenomenal. I had recently, it kind of died down because of COVID, but I had a opportunity to be a part of a mastermind of about 3 other gentlemen. One of them was that attorney guy I was telling you about. And we would get on a conference call every Friday, and we would hit, before we got on the conference call, we would keep ourselves accountable of writing our numbers down and our pros and cons of that specific week. And then 9 o'clock in the morning on Friday, we would get on the conference call and we would talk about it. Which one of us out of us 4 are really hitting their numbers financially? They're doing really good. They're getting students in, and we're gonna definitely, chime in and listen to that person. And then the mastermind was good in a sense because we all would expose everything about us, our pros and our cons. Most of the time, You hear the success stories behind the businesses, but you don't see or hear about. Yeah, social media is great about that too. Like, you don't see the bad pictures, you don't see the bad videos, you don't see the hurts, you don't see the pain, the blood, sweat, tears. So this was great because one of the guys that was in our mastermind had been around since '92, and he had 300 500 students, while some of the other guys in us, we were just getting started. So it was really great to learn from that person. And, oh, wow, that's a really good idea. Oh, and then, I'm going to implement that in my kids program, or, well, this is what I did, and, maybe this will help you out. And so mastermind and mentorship, I'm a very huge advocate of, because I've seen essentially the success of it and some of the programs that and the systems that we put in place in our school. All those ideas I can attribute from a lot of that conference call that we used to have, and we hopefully to start it back up.
Yeah, so that is super powerful. I'll just give you the example of like podcasting, and for the audience, they may have heard this example. I've shared it a couple of times, but I know quite a number of people that started a podcast, and within 10 episodes they're done, right? Like they never pick up a mic again, right? And so what we have is like with, I know you were on Us Advice podcast and also Ruffy's podcast. We have kind of a similar thing where like every week we have a separate podcast that we do together, and we kind of go through like, hey, this is what I'm doing here. This is what that has allowed us not just to, because we're not making money off this, right? So it's
right.
It has allowed us to stay motivated, and then also steal certain, like, so for example, you're a guest on all 3 podcasts now, right? Yeah. Now we got this collaboration, and then Ruffy actually, he stole like the format that I use for my intro. So it's a good way to have accountability. And then also what you have is you can steal best practices and just, keep growing. So
sure. I mean, just share these practices, and it got to be open to constructive criticism. I mean, I think, you ask anybody, the top 100 most successful people in the world, any Fortune 500, they have to be open to some sort of accountability and constructive criticism. Otherwise, how do you know if you're doing one thing wrong or you're doing one thing right? And in most cases, for me, I self-doubt myself a lot. So to hear from my superiors that, hey, you're actually on the right path, man, that's a confidence booster for that whole year for me. Knowing that, this guy who's got a successful school and is almost, bringing in 6 figures a year, he's telling me that I'm doing something right. That's great. That's all I need to hear. So, and it kind of goes back to, my mom passed away. So she was the biggest cheerleader in this hobby of mine that essentially became my career. Not anyone else in my family. They all know what I do, but a lot of them still follow the stereotypical, whatever, the doctor, engineer path, if not, business, but definitely not what I do. They and a lot of them, still can't fathom kind of what I do. So I just generalize it as much as I can. It's like, I just run a gym. No big deal. That's it. I just run a gym. So I needed that. I needed to tap into a world where they understand what I'm doing. There's an accountability with it. They encourage me, and they respect and give me moral support for my hobbies, and they give me constructive criticism. So for sure.
Yeah. Another thing that you pointed out that I just want to double click on and make sure that the audience is picking up as well is that you mentioned that you're completely transparent and open, right? And it's really important that when you're in these groups, right, you're only going to get what you put in, right? So if you're trying to make yourself seem cool and you're not sharing the actual numbers, then you're not really going to see the growth, right? So and you mentioned that you not on this podcast but on another podcast that you also are doing some business consulting now. Is that
Yeah. So COVID was really a test to a lot of us gym owners, as you know, for some reason or another, and I still don't understand it till this day, why governors were receiving orders from whoever to shut gyms down. In my humble opinion, I think that those were, if not the most healthy and cleanest places anyway, outside of COVID. That's kind of what people needed to mentally help them stay cooped up. Well, because they cracked down on it, and they almost made it illegal to run, we're talking when COVID first hit, February, March 2020. There's a lot of guys, as you know, in business, the first 2 years when you open up a business, it's very, very fragile. if you can get past that benchmark the first 2 years, you're good. But unfortunately, maybe they started in 2018 or they started in 2019 and then COVID happened. They had no doors to go to the next day. They had to close their gym down. Some of them lived from that first of the month membership money every first of the month. I know we're like that too. So unfortunately, a lot of them didn't make it. I know a lot of my friends had to close their schools down, and it's still going on to this day. This pandemic hasn't gone anywhere. So through that, we pivoted at the right time and went virtual, and we created an online portal, which is also on the website too, and Zoom. Zoom was everyone's safe haven. We were teaching online on Zoom, and we did that right at the right time, and that helped save our clientele to where they felt that their buck would go to at least something, rather than us being more of a charity case and just kind of rely on people's heart and say, hey, can please support us? I know we're not open, but please support. Yeah, I mean, you can't. There's only so far you can go with that, and so we had to have something to offer. Now I'm very blessed. I tell you, alhamdulillah, I'm very blessed with the clientele that I have and the staff that I have. We really pulled through, and our numbers grew.
Oh, wow.
And they grew. Yeah, our numbers grew, especially summer and fall of 2020, when there was talks of, I guess, less mandates. Well, in South Carolina, we're real chill, by the way. So I don't know. You're up north, but South Carolina, even now to this day, there's no mandates for anything here. I mean, you could argue whether that's good or bad, but business-wise, that was okay for me. So through that, a lot of guys reached out to me and said, hey, man, what did you all do to grow during a time like this? What did you all do? What are some of the things and practices you did? And yeah, I've had an opportunity to, help guys and had conversations like this, nothing related to punching and kicking, literally related to how do I run my business properly during these times? And I think they were really looking at us as an example, which, by the way, there are other schools that did phenomenally way better than us. But unfortunately, there are a lot of schools that closed down. So through that, I have a lot of affiliate association schools that use our programs in their schools, and then essentially they pay an affiliation fee, or they pay me to come down there and do a seminar. So those are the schools that were just kind of picking my brain a little bit about that. But yeah, so that was something that's not something I'm making money off of yet, but except for my affiliates. But yeah, it has been something that has popped up as a subject of matter.
That's awesome. So you're saying that when COVID hit, you had to shut down the actual gym operations. And so you guys were quick to pivot and offered your services, trainings, coachings online. And now you've been able to also have different gyms that kind of pay for some of that content, and you're able to kind of that's a really awesome pivot. It's a really
correct.
Good.
Yeah, correct. And I had to just kind of look left and right and see what my superiors were doing. What were they doing to help doing that? And we had a lot of Facebook groups that we did that were martial arts school owners, and we were just all chime in and really pick each other's brains, and it really helped. I mean, like I said, I have really good the organizations that we're part of that produce these systems of these martial arts are also very brilliant businessmen. Like that attorney guy. He's an attorney and he does this for fun. We have public speakers for Fortune 500 companies. We have, and they happen to be a black belt in martial arts, so they're running a gym. So we were picking the brains of you were listening to the right people, and again, just to be open and be vulnerable and say, I need help. I don't know what to do with this COVID-19 thing. I mean, this is killing our business. What do we do? And yeah, so we just listen to the right people at the right time, and we happen to have a client who's a videographer, and he did a phenomenal job of our and made a Venmo. I'm sorry, I get them confused, Venmo and Vimeo. I think it's Vimeo.
Yeah.
Vimeo, yeah. Made a Vimeo channel dedicated to our academy, where there's 255 videos of different martial arts where they could just learn from home. And yeah, it was working real well at the time. So
you guys made 255 videos in like how long did that take you?
We did it in phases. So phase 1 was about 100, phase 2 is about 15, and we haven't done phase 3 yet. Well, we had time because
yeah, that's
the governor told us in March of 2020 here And March and April were very rough. They told us, you can't teach.
Mm.
You just can't. So what we did, we would drive, we would open up the academy. It would be me, my videographer, and whoever else I wanted in the video, depending on the subject matter we're covering. And we did that as opposed to teaching physical classes because I couldn't. I just made that my 9 to 5. And we did that, and we would record for hours and hours at a time, and it worked out great, man. It worked out great, and we took advantage of the time. Then I'd either stick around and chime in and online and teach some virtual classes while I'm there at the academy, and that would be my day. So it was still busy. I never took a break. You know, a lot of people are like, oh, you know, you work from home, but I mean, I was at the academy just as I was outside the pandemic, pre and post.
Yeah, so I think right now, one thing that I want to transition to is, you know, you brought up having the pivot here to a virtual environment. So I'm assuming this kind of plays into it. But, you know, when I did a Google search of martial arts academies in Greenville, there were a couple other ones that came up. And so what I'm really interested in is, how are you guys differentiating yourself from the other academies? And like when people are coming, is there a certain messaging you guys have around that? Or is it based on the client experience? Like, how do you guys think through that? Like, there are other, you know, places here. What makes Raja Martial Arts special? And then also, I'm assuming part of that is also the online video experience that you guys have, but I just want to get your thoughts on that.
Now it's seniority. I mean, we were the first one to raise the flag of teaching the specific blends of martial arts that we did. So just to give you an example, in the business park that I'm in, there are 3 CrossFit gyms. There's a jiu-jitsu gym. There's a taekwondo gym. And I mean, I have no problem with them. They have no problem with me. And I know they wouldn't affect my business because they don't do what we do the way we do it. And so there was that. So in 2009, no one was teaching Thai boxing in Greenville. If they were, it wasn't a big name. The Filipino arts, Wing Chun. So all these arts are foreign. There's tons of karate, taekwondo, BJJ places, Brazilian jiu-jitsu. But there weren't anyone doing what we do. And, you know, ironically enough, now, as I speak to you, there are some guys who moved in from bigger cities and came down to Greenville because I think they know there's something in the soil here. There's something in the water here. You know, it's lush. The business is good. And so now you're seeing, probably when you did your Google search, a couple other kickboxing places. Now you're seeing, we have a huge UFC franchise gym here. Now you're seeing Filipino martial arts, but we still marketed that we were the oldest and the longest and the first ones doing what we do. And you know, our Google reviews speak for themselves. Our ratings speak for themselves. Our staff, we have world-renowned staff members, guys that are known throughout the world. One guy has one of the best-selling books on Amazon about the Filipino martial arts, and he happens to be in our backyard teaching. You know, so I'm never concerned or worried about competition. Now, the other thing is I do like our martial art community here, that we all get along. We really respect each other's. Most of the guys here respect each other's line and don't cross it. You know, so it's not like Cobra Kai or anything like that, where people are dojo smashing each other or anything like that. No, everyone here is really, really cool. So a funny story. When I do get fighters, like the hardcore guys, I'll send them to the gym that I know that takes the fighters, because I know the coach there, and he's real cool, and he's real chill, and he's top notch. When I do get, you know, guys who want to focus, we don't have a huge grappling program, but grappling is very popular now. You know, you see Khabib, you see MMA. I will send them to the top grappling school here in Greenville. There's even one that I'm currently grappling with right now to continue to train with. I'll send them there. It's like, hey, I grapple with these guys. Come check them out. So I have no problem with that. Again, I mean, that's no problem for me. So the community here is really good too. So
just to kind of recap, so it sounds like you're saying when you started, you guys were specialized in certain martial arts that no one else was teaching. Yeah. Now the other competition has come in. You don't have to, you know, other people may be doing it, but you since you have been here the longest, you're able to kind of communicate that we've been the longest running for this.
And, you know, ironically enough, a lot of those guys have messaged me prior Not, it's funny. It's like, we don't come off as, the truck stop where you have to stop and check in with us before you continue your travel. But I've had a lot of them respectfully come through and say, hey, just letting you know, I am Joe somebody, and I'm opening up this, and I've seen your place, and any help you can give, please, or we'd love to meet you. So very, 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 very polite, in this city, So yeah, I mean, and I think that again, actions for me, both literally, speak louder than words in this career. I mean, both as a fighter, you just watch them, you can tell who they are, if they're good or not, but also as a business person too. Actions speak louder than words, and I think that people see the character and demeanor from our students and the culture that we have at our academy, our reputation, our organizations. Again, are worldwide, world-renowned, top-notch, and have been around for a while. For every program that we have, there's an organization that backs that program, supplying it with proper curriculum, proper structure, proper ranking system. So there's nothing, there's nothing. We're not winging it. I mean, this is all backed by really good organizations that other people that I know are affiliated with these organizations have success in their schools and don't have any problem with competition. So we're also affiliated with these specific organizations in this city. No one else is. So a lot of people, some of the hardcore martial artists actually look for that. One in particular, Bruce Lee's organization is, and learning his art, is the head guy that does that. His name is Dan Inosanto. If you're a big Bruce Lee fan, he was in his movies. He's now 86 years old. We have instructors under that man who has that direct lineage to Bruce Lee at our academy. There are people who are hardcore Bruce Lee fans who actually research that to see, oh yeah, I'm definitely going to that school because they're under Guru Dan Inosanto. You know what I mean? So that just gives you an example, of what we got. I mean, I don't want to brag or toot our own horn or anything like that. I'm just trying to answer your question.
No, I think it's very valuable for the audience, like the importance of having authority in the space. And like, these are things that I think nowadays it's kind of become easy to fake authority, where you can get like certain, little things on Instagram, social media that make it look like
we call it YouTube University.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but like,
YouTube
to have
University, yeah, we got a couple of those guys. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but to have actual authority in the space is something that's irreplaceable. You mentioned that you have, so I mean, one of the things you mentioned, you have people that have studied under that instructor, and then you also have an instructor who has a best-selling book on Amazon. How do you attract this top talent, right? I think talented people can make or break your business, right? If you have really talented, awesome, motivated people, then running a business becomes a lot easier, right? How do you make sure that you're attracting them, and then how do you also keep them and retain them?
There's a saying, I'm going to steal this guy's quote here, but he's my coach, he's my mentor. He was the one. His name is Greg Nelson. He was the 2-time cancer survivor I spoke to you earlier about, and he is one of the top coaches in the UFC right now. He's got these amazing quotes, and if I had an opportunity, I would put them all over my gym. But there's one that he has that I love, and it says, hard work beats talent when talent refuses to work hard. And I love that quote. And I think that that's the way I've always been. I don't feel I am a talented individual. I feel like I'm a hard worker. I think talent and luck, maybe 10%, but I'd like to believe that 90% of it is the fact that I make the effort to go to the gym, the fact that I make the effort to invest in traveling under instructors to learn specific martial arts to bring back to my academy. I mean, I think actions speak louder than words. And for most of the time, most of the connections that I've made in the martial art world, they've seen me in action, because again, I'm an introvert, so I don't talk too much. So they've probably seen me in action. And that's how I know that's the case with the gentleman who has the book out, Dan Medina. They're actually making a documentary about him. From what I heard, I last spoke to him. Yeah, he teaches our lunchtime classes. I mean, this guy, I feel bad because I was just coming out of cancer. This was 2016. And he stopped by our place twice, and he left the book there, and that's it. And he's like, I think you guys would benefit from this. I didn't think anything of it. And then finally I took the time to read the book, and I called him that night. I said, you're hired. Yeah, I mean, yes, definitely. Definitely. I would love to have you at our place. And but again, he stopped by our place. I think yeah, actions speak louder than words, and our organizations speak for themselves. Same with one of the other guys that I have is actually the instructor my mother brought me to when I was 5. Full circle, he's now teaching at our place. I call him my Sifu, and he
Wow.
still is to this day. He's there. And then, the rest of the staff members, I either groomed, and they do a phenomenal job because I think they watch the way I run a place, and yeah, and I know what another guy was, I think we sparred or we fought or something, and now he now he teaches at our place. So yeah, so yeah, actions, man, actions speak louder than words. I mean, hard work beats talent when talent refuses to work hard, man. It's a true statement. So
Yeah, that's powerful.
yeah.
I did want to ask a little bit more, marketing things. I think one question I did have is, do you guys, and if you don't feel comfortable answering this, just let me know, but do you guys have a budget for marketing? Do you spend any money on marketing your business and getting the word out there?
It just kind of goes back to my staff. I've been really blessed. I have a lady who she was doing SEO, search engine optimization, for some of the top hotels and businesses here in Greenville. Quit that, and then started to invest in just become an entrepreneur for herself. So kind of an SEO for hire. When we first met through her boyfriend, who is now her husband now, he was a student under me, and he poked her and said, hey, I think you will like this art, and I think he could use you to help market his place. And that connection happened 10 years ago. And again, someone who's still with me till this day. And ever since then, I have had the opportunity to pick her brain, and she has ran our website, our Google, our Facebook page, our logos, our uniforms. I mean, you name it. And I mean, she's one of the reasons why when you Google searched us, when we came in one of the top guys, it's because of her. She's brilliant at what she does. I've been fortunate enough that we bartered, so I would teach her for free, and she would do that. I think I just checked my account the other day. I think the only thing I paid was my hosting fee every month for the website. But we live in a day and age now. It should not be hard to brand yourself and market yourself. I mean, everyone's got a smartphone. Everyone's got a camera. Everyone's got a Facebook account or a TikTok or an Instagram. Why is it so hard to market now? It shouldn't be. So all the stuff you see on my Instagram, that's just all me. And all the stuff you don't see on my Instagram, that's because I'm lazy. But really, I mean, if I just get on board with it and I tell myself, hey, I really need to market myself, I could do it. And I know I'm capable of it. And Instagram was something easy to pick up on. I'm lucky that, I mean, I'm 35, so I sort of kind of grew up in that generation when we went from what was it, YouTube videos to was it MySpace to Facebook to Instagram. So I mean, yeah, I'm lucky in the generation I have. I'm tech savvy. But yeah, no, we don't spend too much. Now, in the beginning, I did. I mean, in the beginning, I did something called Guerrilla Marketing. There's actually a book out, which is really good, that one of my guys who ran a gym put me on. And that particular marketing book would tell you to invest in back in the day, we used to print out flyers, print out brochures, business cards, stakes that you put off to the side of the road that has an arrow pointing this way. And I'd spend, maybe $100, $500, $600, on that. But the most I've spent so far was my videographer. Was a good chunk change when we made the video online sequence portal. But other than that, man, I'm not spending any. There's no budget because I'm not spending much when it comes to marketing. I don't, and I haven't tried the Facebook market ads and the Instagram ones, I know this. It's becoming a very saturated market now. And unfortunately, without naming any names, it is showing new business owners true colors, especially in the martial art world, because when you're suddenly paying Instagram to make your followers, and because you do that, you could pay them to 10,000 or 20,000. But I swear I looked at your account a week ago and you had 100 followers. Like I clearly see what you're doing. You know what I mean? When I see your ads, but I know that that's not really the picture of your gym. Do you know what I mean? So it's revealing people's true color. So for that reason, I haven't really gotten involved in it. I'm still old school. You know what I mean? Like if the wheel works, don't tweak it, man. So the wheel's been working for us, so we've been fine.
That's interesting. I think a lot of people on the podcast, when they come on, they have brick and mortar places. They haven't spent too much on these kind of forms of marketing. And I think there's a narrative nowadays that you have to spend money on these platforms.
There is. I think gone are the days of word of mouth. I think COVID has a big play in that. We have always been word of mouth. We get more referrals. When I ask people, how'd you find out about it? Oh, my cousin is in your women's kickboxing class. Oh, my neighbor told me about you guys. Oh, the teacher at our school said y'all were phenomenal. I saw this girl and she used to train with you and she just won her fight. And she says, yeah, go check them out. We're big on word of mouth. I'd say word of mouth and our Google reviews. Again, there's no dollar sign attributed to that. Right. That has been our biggest way of getting clientele.
Yeah, that's irreplaceable, right? Like someone willing to put their own reputation on the line to say, hey, this is a good place, I recommend it. That's invaluable.
Yeah, it's been great.
The last thing I wanted to get your pick your brain on really is, you have studied a various number of martial arts, and I wanted to just it seems like just talking to you, you're a continuous learner, right? Just want to talk to you about the importance of having this kind of mindset, seeking out different perspectives, making sure that you are continuously trying to learn so that you can come back and then serve your audience and serve your the people, your community that you're working with.
Absolutely. My superiors are all, because one of them just turned 70. My superiors are all 70 and above, all my instructors, minus a few. They all still learn different martial arts. They all still pursue more arts. Who am I to just hang up my brain and say, yeah, I know everything, I'm good, when these guys are, I'll give you a perfect example. Dan Inosanto, legend in the martial art world. He's Bruce Lee's best friend. He's the one that I'm under his organization for Bruce Lee's martial art. He was in Bruce Lee's movies. He has the authority to pass down as far as who gets instructorship to teach that. This man is 86 years old and still learning arts till this day. Now, it has recently stopped because of COVID, obviously due to his health. But I think I've listened to his schedule, and beyond teaching at the academy, which by the way, he still does at 86, he's still going to other gyms in LA and learning. And, when I see that and when I hear that, I mean, the man has seen 3 generations of students in his gym. He's seen a kid become a teen, become an adult, get married, have kids, and then maybe their grandkids as students. I mean, this guy's a legend, and may he continue to have a long life. And when I see guys like this continue to learn, I don't really have an excuse. I don't really have an excuse. So not only that, but even if I didn't use him as an example, I've never heard someone say, geez, I should have never learned all that knowledge. It did me so wrong. You know what I mean? Like, I've never heard someone say, like learning screwed them over. You know what I mean? Like I've never heard that. You know what I mean? So no, I think it's great, man. I'm still doing that. I'm not a grappler. I'm a striker. I am learning how to grapple because it puts me in an uncomfortable position. And when you put yourself in life in these positions, that's where growth happens. I think that's where learning happens, when you put yourself in positions and that you get out of your comfort zone, if you will. And when you do that and you get out of your comfort zone, that's where the real growth starts to happen. It could be in extreme cases where, you're in a corner of a ring and you're just taking a beating, trying to figure out how to defend yourself and survive, to, something simple like, I just recently in the past 2 years started to do marathon running, and I have plantar fasciitis, which is makes your feet are flat footed, very bad. So running and kickboxing is like the last thing that anybody who has this problem should do. And that's what I do. So, but I when things were locked down during COVID, I found a high, that good old runner's high that people talk about. And I started running. I put in a random 10 miles today with my baby in my stroller, just because of boredom. So, but I know it's something uncomfortable, and I know that to get better at it, I need to go pursue it. And I need to learn some of the techniques behind how to run better. I need to hang out with a lot of these marathon guys, change my workouts up a little bit. So, I mean, it takes it takes a village, right? It takes a village. And I think for every fighter, Khabib, to any Fortune 500 person, any role model you have, promise you, there's at least 5 people behind that person. And I'm not just talking about wife or husband or kids or father or mother as a motivator. I'm sure there's a marketer, there's an accountant, there's a medic to make sure that they're healthy. There's in the martial art world, then there's a strength and conditioning coach, there's a nutritionist, there's a striking coach, there's a kickboxing coach, there's a wrestling coach, there's someone to coach them on how to be better at time management. You know what I mean? There's somebody to coach them on how to lose weight properly for these fights. So it takes a village, so you're always learning. I mean, I don't know of anyone that says, "Oh, everything was because of me and myself and I." That's it. I mean, I just don't. I have not read up on anyone who's like that. Maybe I'm old school and I'm not up with the times, but I mean, I just don't know anyone who has not taken the time to learn more and better themselves to be top in their game, no matter what field they're in.
And I know I said the last question there, but I was just going through my notes, and there's one thing that I did want to hit.
Sure.
You mentioned that you were on a strip with like CrossFit and a bunch of other gyms, and you're at a pretty big facility now. I wanted to, and you've been at a smaller facility before, so just wanted to pick your brain on how important location is, and how much that does for your business.
Storefront, especially right on the main strip, right on the main road, that's always going to be gold. But as anyone knows, in any city, you're going to pay a lot of money to be on the main road. So ironically enough, where my gym is we are on the main road. However, I'm within a business park that you have to actually know, either by looking at the very microscopic directory that we got that nobody looks at when they come inside the business park, to finding us online. I do think if you're talking about 2021, we're in a day and age now where if I can't find you on my smartphone and you don't have a digital footprint, you don't exist. So in my humble opinion, if you don't have a digital footprint of some sort, as much as I hate to look at my phone, I'll be honest with you, but if you don't have a digital footprint, you don't exist. And I've seen very successful places, holes in the wall, middle of nowhere. How are they getting clientele? Yeah, it used to be us. SEOs. They're finding them online. They're seeing Facebook about them, Instagram about them, YouTube videos. So I think now probably not as much a location being key, but there's a flip side to it. So yeah, I mean, obviously, you could be great digitally, but then if I pull up and you're next to a drug house, okay, or you're next to the bad part of town, where I'm going to feel like I'm going to get jumped just walking into the gym and leaving, then that's a bad location, obviously, right? So I do feel that personally, I've always, I don't know why, I've always been attracted to business parks, and I think it's because of the lack of a good location I had in my first two gyms. The one that my father gave me, it was in the middle of nowhere, 30 minutes outside of Greenville. So Greenville's a bustling city. Excuse me. I was a 900 square foot place, and it wasn't on easily at that time, didn't really have a main road. And if they did, I wasn't on it. And SEO is a little bit brand new, but most of it was people driving by finding us. And ironically enough, the only way they knew about us is there was an ABC liquor store to my right and a meat store to my left, and then you had us. Okay. So if they were getting meat or beer, they would find out about us. Oh, hey, that looks pretty cool. I was just on my way to pick up a bottle, or I was just on my way to the butcher to get my meat. So that was me in the beginning years. And then I'll never forget my second location, and I'll never make the same mistake. But we were in a skate park. It was 10,000 square feet, but we were given 2,000, which was right behind a half pipe, which is where they skate down and then they skate back up. I don't know how much you know about skating culture, but dropping the F-bomb in every sentence and weed is like huge. So hearing that and smelling that all the time when I'm trying to teach kids, like,
not to do that.
You're right. Exactly. Polar opposite culture clash. That lasted for a year. We actually got, funny story behind that was that guy almost evicted us. And I think I had a business partner at that time. And that's also something I learned that I don't do personally. I don't do well with business partners. So I've changed a lot since then. I said, no business partner for me. And I got to get a better storefront, professional looking place. So then I went inside what is now Merivin Business Center. And I had 1,700 square foot place there. And then in 2016, where we are currently now, within that same business park, because I liked it so much, I had a 5,000 square foot facility. So that's an example of physically location being important. But I think for the most part, I mean, as long as you're in a safe place and other businesses are thriving in that place, and and you have a good digital footprint, I think that you can make it work. I think that you could make it work. I mean, and if you can't, think of how many businesses start from home.
Right.
So there you go. So you always have that avenue to do. Unfortunately, I'm seeing now a lot of people, again, teaching from their home martial arts and stuff like that, and then trying to make money off of it. I have not, I have not seen any success or know of people personally have success on it, but I know that it's something that people can do. I'm a little bit old school in the fact that I think you need a dojo. You need a proper school. You need a storefront where people can go and collaborate and learn, an environment where, it could be nurtured. You're building fighters, you're building warriors, you're building stronger people to contribute to society.
Yeah, those are really good examples. And I think, speaking of digital presence and digital location, where can the audience find you and Raja Martial Arts if they're looking and more interested to learn?
Absolutely. Facebook is Raja Academy of Martial Arts, or they can find my name, Harun Raja. Instagram is huge. Just put at Raja Academy. They'll find us as well. And finally, our website is Raja, RAJA, martialarts.com. And that is our webpage. It has all the information on it if they ever want to get in contact with us. But it also has our affiliations where if they're in, let's say, like Detroit, like you, two of the guys that I train under, there's an instructor there that was in Southfield I was telling you about, that is under that organization. So through our website, you can find satellite instructors who do kind of what we do in different states and in the country and in the nation and in the world. So yeah, the website is also good for that as well. And yeah.
Awesome. I'll be sure to link that stuff in the show notes as well. Harun, thank you so much for joining the show. I had a great time. Really appreciate you taking the time for this.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you so much.
So after this podcast, I got curious and I did some research on Google Trends, and it looks like When Kung Fu Panda was released, there was a 33% increase in the search volume for Learn Kung Fu. So media is huge, not just in general awareness, but also prompting people to take action. Now, of course, as always, I have my key takeaways from this episode, but before we get into that, I want to share a clip from an episode we did with Zar Sayed on branding an automotive repair shop.
Because you realize that one thing about consumer behavior, that's another thing that you get to study as well after being in just dealing with people on a daily basis. You get to realize certain patterns in consumer behavior. People are always likely to leave a bad review than a good one. When people have great experiences, very rarely will they take time out of their busy life and busy day to go on Google or Yelp to give you a 5-star review. They're not going to do that. But if they have, oh Lord and behold, if it's one thing that you messed up and they're unhappy, oh, you're going to hear it. 1-star review, Facebook, Yelp. They're going to blast you on every place they can, right? But when you want good reviews, you have to ask for them.
If you enjoyed this episode with Sifu Raja, I am sure you will also enjoy the episode with Zar. Check it out wherever you are listening to this podcast. It is episode number 21. Now here are my key takeaways. Number 1, actions speak louder than words. In the marketing and branding space, we can get so caught up with trying to manage the perceptions of others that we often forget that being authentically yourself and being generous with your knowledge can go way further than thousands and thousands of dollars in ad spend. And number 2, don't be afraid to ask for help. Having people he could turn to helped Sifu Raja not only get through all his martial arts training and excel in that, but also helped when he was dealing with cancer and dealing with the business challenge of his gym being closed after COVID. If you want to take your brand to the next level, you have to have people in your corner that you trust. And that is all for this episode. If you enjoyed this discussion, please consider leaving a review and sharing with a friend. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you next week.